Morning, everybody. Andy here again, day 30. So it's been about a month since I've been doing these, and from what I can gather when I talk about it in there, I might be doing it for quite a long time as well. Daily figures down below. Yesterday, the deaths 763. So we're on that sort of plateau now. It's still a lot of deaths there, and we're now over the 18,000 mark, 18,100. And yesterday, yes, Pink Floyd's album "Wish You Were Here." Yes, it came out in the 70s. I just heard someone talking about it yesterday, particularly the title track, and it's what made me think about playing that. But yes, unfortunately for some, another 70s album. Just been having a conversation on Facebook about 70s albums and things like that as well. But this week I've been talking to people because obviously I'm very much involved with music, as I said, locally, and just love music and written about it, play it on the radio, all that sort of stuff. Even played as was a drummer back in the day in the 70s and 80s. So it's something that's sort of close to my heart. And yesterday, or over the last couple of days, there's been a couple of announcements or bits of information coming out from the government or the chief medical officer, I think that's what his name is, Mr. Chris Whitty, basically suggesting, yesterday, Chris Whitty said in the press conference that they have every day here in the UK, that social distancing measures in the UK, at least, will probably have to be in place until the end of this year. That isn't unrealistic. That isn't anything really. I think that most of us were expecting that type of thing as well. And also, I think Michael Gove, one of the government ministers, said something along the same lines the other day, and about how certain places are going to have to stay shut, basically for the rest of this year. And all the places that I'm interested in because what I'm going to say is going to be, you can take it from the music perspective and put it into retail, to travel, to anything really that you wanted to. And they will have their knock-on effects in that particular way. Even different aspects of the entertainment industry, like theatres and cinemas and art houses, or whatever you want to call them, are going to have the same sort of problems. Is that talking to people, is that the main thing is that they cannot see a way out of this. They cannot see where this is going to end. We are all in uncharted territory, but we just don't know where we're going to be. I'm talking to people who book bands and things like that locally in venues and that, and a lot of the bands that were going to be playing, doing the tours, 20 odd date tours around the UK and maybe into Europe, or then go on off elsewhere. All of those tours, as I'm sure you're well aware, were cancelled. Because everywhere, I mean, that's the one thing, the great leveller is that we are all in this together, not just in the UK, in Europe, but the whole world. I've said before, over 50% of the world is in lockdown of some sort. So we're all suffering that. And all these tours have been cancelled, and they were all rescheduled for sort of September, October, that sort of time. But now we're coming to that point, reading what other people are saying as well, is that even they are in doubt now. And it takes a lot of organising to put something like these dates on. Talking to somebody else yesterday about exactly this point, they might have a tour at that sort of time. But if that doesn't happen, they've then got to rebook it. And when can they rebook it for? Because everybody is going to be scrambling around to put all these dates on for music gigs. And the uncertainty means that they just don't know what they can do. They can plan things now. But the other point with this is that the last things that are probably going to reopen with the social distancing laws or restrictions as they are, yes, we'll have shops that will start to open, because some shops are open now. You can allow a trickle of people in, a certain amount of people can go into a store or a small shop or something, and I saw that happening in Germany the other day. They're only allowing one person into the shop, but it's one person that can buy something. That trickle will probably start to increase, but the last places that are going to be opening are the places where people are more tightly packed together. The cafes, the restaurants, the bars, the clubs, the music venues, festivals, all that type of thing. I mentioned yesterday about the spring had gone. The summer's disappearing rapidly, and the summer is that time when so many events take place, big events, not just music events, obviously festivals, but festivals of all different types. Hay on Wye, they have a big sort of artistic literary festival. The Edinburgh Festival has been cancelled. All of those type of things, because obviously the concentration of people, and none of those events are going to happen. So come we're looking now at the end of this year. This year has potentially been written off for any event that involves a crowd of people. So you're looking at next year, and that's quite frightening, because the implications of that are obviously that the longer this goes on anyway, with whatever business you're in, and people are being laid off, people are being furloughed. A lot of those people, unfortunately, are probably going to lose their jobs in the end, because the longer this goes on, the uncertainty, there's no money coming in. We've seen it with people asking for bailouts, whether it be airlines, travel companies, or whatever it might be, even shops and football clubs or whatever. I don't know. There is such a load of people who are going to want some money. How much of this, as I said right at the beginning of these videos, when I used the sort of wartime analogy about coming out of your bunker, at the end when this is all finished, and what is going to be left. That was about 4 weeks ago when I first started. We're 4 weeks on now, and there's still no end in sight to it. Yes, the figures might be getting slightly better, but when you're told, and I'd say realistically, that social distancing is going to have to stay in place until the end of this year at least, and obviously we're waiting for a vaccine before we can really start to mingle as we used to do. And how long that will take, I don't know. Yes, they're testing it, starting to test, but it's a long process, and one that you need to get right, because there's been problems in the past, as I'm sure people with longer memories will remember. You need to get vaccinations right, so that people have confidence in them as much as anything else. So where are we going to be? What's going to be left when we come out? Will the music venues, the theatres, everything like that, retail shops, everything, are they still going to be there? Will bands be able to tour, because all the backroom staff that help all these things are those companies that provide the trucks, that provide the equipment, that provide the personnel to put on these tours. And when you go backstage at these venues, especially in Europe where I've seen it, there's people all over the place employed by the venues specifically to do certain things. Are those people still going to have a job? Are those people still going to be there? So, and the more you think about it, the more frightening it gets. The only thing I can say is all the people that I've spoken to this week are actually quite upbeat in their own way. I suppose in some ways you've got to. But there's another aspect to this, obviously, is these venues and the gig spaces and that, and as I said, the cafes, restaurants, bars, clubs where people are tightly packed together. It's very hard to actually open them gradually, because you can't go to a gig, can you, and stand 6 feet away from everybody else. That's just impractical. So, and you can't really go into a pub, because what are you going to pubs for? To meet people, to associate, socialise with people. You can't do that 6 feet away, and it would be very hard to police, which is another reason why that probably won't happen until we are quite a way down this road. And there's another element that somebody said the other day, quite right, but two elements. One is, who's going to have a job, who's going to have the money to go out to these places, to bars, restaurants, clubs, gigs, festivals, theatres, cinemas. Most of us, I know those who aren't spending money and who are lucky enough still to have a job and have some money behind them. Yes, they may have money and they'd be going to, yes, we want a party, and I totally understand that, but spare a thought for all those people who won't have any money when they come out of this, because they've lost their jobs, their businesses, their homes potentially, their livelihoods. They're not going to want to go out, or they won't be able to go out. And also there's the element of, this is changing us. This whole pandemic, this whole experience is changing the way we look at things. We're going to get so used to sitting, excuse me, within these sort of four walls and not meeting. Dear, this talking, a month of talking. We're getting so used to not meeting people that we'll get used to not meeting people, and we'll find it quite strange to actually go into those places, and maybe even uncomfortable to go into places where people are tightly packed together in bars and pubs and gigs and festivals. And so a lot of people might be a bit weird about that. And I totally understand that, because this is affecting us all in different ways, and it's going to be sort of small steps. This is painting a not very good picture, I know, but it's just talking to people and the realisation, when you start to think through some of the comments that are coming out from official figures, and you start to think of the implications of this. And I've got friends in the music industry and the arts industry whose livelihoods depend on performances of one form or another, or their pubs, etc. Many of them are doing everything that they possibly can to keep going, to adapt to the situation. Like my friend who's got a pub who's trying to deliver beer every week, which is great. But how long can you keep that going? Can you keep that going for 9 months? I certainly hope that they can, and I hope that everybody can. But with a bit of realism, and the problem is that we don't know. We're not going to know what it's going to be like until this is over, and then we can put our heads above the parapet and see what's still left and what's smoking ruins in the distance, and hopefully we can put some sort of semblance of life back together, normal life. But I don't think it's going to be quite the same life as what we've got now, as much as we'd like it to. And there's lots of people who've got great opportunities and great ideas and careers potentially that are we're on the cusp of something, shall we say, or they've got great film roles to come, or theatre roles, or gigs to play, or albums to release. That isn't going to happen. And will that happen next year? Will the chance have gone? The only thing is, I suppose, that everybody is, as I said earlier, is in the same boat. So not a particularly upbeat video, I think, but it's just one of those things that's been playing on my mind, talking to these people. Got a lot of very good friends, as I said, in those positions, and really feeling for them and sort of feeling their pain and what they're going through and that uncertainty, because it's their lives, and as I said, you can transfer this experience to so many others that you may well know that you're suffering as well. So I wish everybody well, and let's hope that we can come out of this with some semblance of normal life and intact mentally, physically, and financially as well. Anyway, hopefully, stay strong, stay safe, stay at home just in case, and I'll speak to you tomorrow. Goodbye.